Welcome to Tale's Lab, where lying wives and sneaky girlfriends finally get exposed. From girls' trips that never happened to coworkers who were a little too friendly, we break down every red flag, messy receipt, and suspicious text with humor, shock, and just a little bit of petty. Expect wild stories, dramatic reactions, and satisfying karma as the truth comes crashing through the door. If you love relationship tea, plot twists, and seeing players get played, this channel is your new home. Every single chaotic, jaw-dropping, binge-worthy episode. Hit subscribe and never miss a fresh dose of exposed cheating. Don't forget to check our previous stories. Let's get into it. My wife told everyone I was just the babysitter while she cheated right in front of people who ate at my table, smiled in my face, and called our family goals. She said it like it was funny, like my love was a side job and my presence was optional. I stood there holding her youngest, watching her laugh with her friends, and I felt something in me go quiet. Not numb, just finished. Here's how it happened. We met in Charlotte, North Carolina, at a friend's cookout where the music was too loud and the burgers were overcooked, but she looked like summer, bright, confident, impossible to ignore. Her name is Ariel Brooks. I'm Terrence Caldwell, and back then I wasn't trying to impress anyone. I had a steady job in logistics, a small apartment, and a habit of staying calm when other people performed. She found that calm mature. I found her ambition magnetic. We talked for hours by the cooler, laughing like we'd known each other longer than one afternoon. Our first real date was at a small spot in Noda, the kind with string lights and a dessert menu that pretends to be fancy. I mispronounced something on the menu, and she laughed so hard she snorted, then covered her mouth and shook her head like she couldn't believe herself. That laugh hooked me. When I walked her to her car, she squeezed my hand and said, "You feel safe." It sounded like a compliment and a promise. Later, when I drove home, I kept replaying how her fingers fit into mine like my life had just shifted 1 inch in a better direction. We built a rhythm fast. Sunday mornings meant errands and joking in the cereal aisle like we were on a game show. I'd read labels like a serious scientist, and she'd toss boxes into the cart and say, "Sir, this is not a dissertation." I cooked. She danced around the kitchen, pretending the spatula was a microphone. Some nights we sat on the couch with our feet touching, quietly watching bad reality TV and making fun of the dramatic pauses. She'd say, "If you ever embarrass me like that, I'll leave you," and I'd grin and say, "Noted," thinking it was just playful. I proposed on a rainy evening near the Romari Bearden Park area. Nothing flashy, just a walk, an umbrella, and a ring that took me months to save for. She cried and said yes, and for a while everything felt honest. We got married at a small venue outside Concord, surrounded by family, plates clinking, and older relatives giving advice they never followed. Ariel was glowing. I remember thinking, I will protect this. I didn't understand then that sometimes people don't want protection. They want control. And when they don't have it, they turn love into a competition. Our first apartment together was in Silver Spring, Maryland, because her business opportunities pulled us north. She called herself an entrepreneur, branding, consulting, online sales, always posting, always networking. I supported it, not just with money, but with belief. I'd read her drafts, listen to her pitch ideas, and tell her what sounded solid. My job stayed steady. Logistics supervisor for a regional distribution company. I liked systems, schedules, and receipts. At home, I became the one who kept the refrigerator full, the bills paid, the calendars synced. I thought teamwork was love. When our first child, Naomi, was born, Ariel looked at me like I was something precious. She would lean her head on my shoulder during midnight feedings and whisper, "You're already a great dad." Those nights were exhausted and strangely romantic. Soft lamplight, a sleepy baby, my wife's hand tracing circles on my forearm. When our second child, Evan, arrived 2 years later, we joked that we were officially outnumbered. I took pride in being present. I didn't see it as helping. I saw it as fatherhood. Ariel started calling it cute in public. Cute is where the disrespect began. At first, it was small comments. "Terrence is on diaper duty. Terrence is Mr. Snack Pack." People laughed, and I laughed too, because I didn't want to be sensitive. She'd smile like she was the CEO and I was an intern. When I brought it up privately, she'd wave a hand and say, "Relax. People love you." But I noticed how she never said, "He works hard." She never said, "He provides." She said, "He's sweet." Sweet could be a compliment, but in her mouth it started sounding like a cage. The humiliations became sharper once her social circle in Maryland got bigger. She started going to brunches in Bethesda with friends who posted everything: mimosas, outfits, captions about hustle. At one brunch I joined, I went to the restroom and came back to see Ariel reenacting something I'd said, using a fake serious voice, making her friends laugh. When she saw me, she didn't stop. She just smirked like I'd walked into the punchline late. Later in the car, I asked calm, "Why would you do that?" She shrugged. "It's not that deep." The babysitter comment first happened at a kid's birthday party in Silver Spring. A dad offered me a beer and said, "Man, you're really hands-on." Ariel cut in fast. "Oh, he's not hands-on. He's just the babysitter." She laughed. Her sister laughed. My mother-in-law, Renee Brooks, laughed like she'd been paid. I stood there holding Evan, feeling every eye land on me, the way people look at a man who's been domesticated. Naomi tugged my sleeve, asking for juice, and I got it with steady hands because my kids were watching, even if everyone else was laughing. That night, Ariel came home buzzing, telling stories about how funny the party was. She didn't notice I was quiet until she tried to kiss me, and I turned my face. She frowned like I'd inconvenienced her. "Are you mad?" she asked. I said, "Don't call me that again." She rolled her eyes. "Oh my God, Terrence, you're so dramatic." Then she went to the bathroom and posted pictures from the party, and I watched her choose the ones where she looked like the star and I looked like furniture. That's when I realized she wasn't laughing with me. She was using me as proof that she was above me. I tried to fix it the honest way first. I planned a date night in Washington, D.C., just us, dinner, a walk near the monuments, the kind of romance that reminded us we were partners. I even wore the cologne she said she loved, the one she used to bury her face into. During dessert, she smiled at her phone more than she smiled at me. When I asked what was so interesting, she flipped the screen down and said, "Business." I made a joke to lighten it. "Your business must be hilarious." She didn't laugh. She looked annoyed, like my attempt at closeness was bad timing. The funny moments still happened, but they started feeling one-sided. Like when Evan covered himself in diaper cream and waddled out looking like a powdered donut. I laughed so hard I had tears, and Ariel took a picture, not to cherish it, but to post it with a caption, "My babysitter is struggling." People commented laughing emojis. I cleaned Evan up, smiling for him while my stomach tightened. Another time Naomi interviewed me for a school project, asking what I do, and when I said, "I make sure stores get what they need," she nodded seriously and said, "So you deliver snacks to the world." Ariel laughed at that, but later she told her friends, "Even my daughter knows he's basically a helper." Meanwhile, Ariel's schedule changed. She started networking late, coming home smelling like a different soap, moving like she'd been somewhere she didn't want to describe. She'd leave her phone face down and take it to the shower. If I asked where she'd been, she'd sigh like the question was an insult. Renee joined in too. She'd come over and make comments like, "Terrence, you're lucky my daughter keeps you around, right in front of the kids." Ariel never corrected her. She would just look pleased, like she enjoyed watching me swallow my pride. One Friday, I picked up Ariel's dry cleaning in Rockville, and the clerk handed me an extra garment bag by mistake. I opened in the car and saw a men's dress shirt, too big for me, monogrammed with initials that weren't mine. I took it back immediately, confused, and the clerk checked the receipt and said, "It was with your wife's order." I drove home with my hands steady on the wheel, my mind moving like a spreadsheet. When I asked Ariel about it, she didn't even blink. "Probably a mix-up," she said, and went back to typing on her laptop. No concern, no curiosity, just dismissal. The next clue came from a hotel alert. My email handles household reservations, and an automated message popped up, "Thank you for staying with us." The hotel was near Baltimore, off I-95, and the dates were a night Ariel told me she was at a branding workshop. My chest went tight, but I didn't explode. I reread the email like it was a work incident report. I checked the card on file. It was linked to our shared account, my deposits, our life. I said nothing that night. I cooked dinner. I helped Naomi with homework. I bathed Evan. I kissed my kids goodnight with a smile that felt like it belonged to someone else. A week later, I saw the name. Deshaun Mercer. It popped up in a message preview when Ariel's phone lit up on the counter. Same place tonight? I didn't touch the phone. I didn't need to. I recognized the tone. Familiar, casual, intimate. That's the kind of message someone sends when they've done this before. Ariel walked in and snatched the phone like it was a reflex. She didn't look guilty. She looked irritated. "Why are you staring?" she snapped. I said, "Nothing." She smiled, satisfied, like she'd proven I was too weak to challenge her. From that point, I started collecting proof quietly. Not to embarrass her online, not to fight in front of the kids, just to protect myself and them. I screenshotted the hotel receipts from my email. I exported bank statements showing which payments came from where. I kept the school attendance records, the doctor appointment confirmations, the daycare receipts with my name. I documented the nights she claimed she was working and the gaps where she wasn't reachable. My job trained me to track patterns. Ariel trained me to use that skill at home. Every time she called me babysitter, I wrote down the date and who was there. I felt small, but I stayed steady. I also tried to remember the woman I loved, because grief is confusing. Sometimes Ariel would be sweet for 10 minutes, and I'd almost forget the rest. Like the night it snowed and the power flickered, and we all huddled under blankets in the living room. Naomi told a joke that made Evan giggle like a cartoon, and Ariel leaned into me for warmth. For a moment, it felt like old times. I kissed the top of her head, and she sighed. Then her phone buzzed, she sat up, and she walked to the bathroom with it. The moment died quietly, like a candle pinched out between fingers. The humiliation peaked at a holiday dinner in Upper Marlboro at Renee's house. The table was full, the food smelled incredible, and the kids were excited. Renee raised a glass and started praising Ariel's hustle. Then she looked at me and said, "And shout out to Terrence, our dependable babysitter. Every queen needs someone to watch the kids while she builds." The room erupted in laughter. Ariel laughed the loudest. Naomi's face tightened, like she knew it was wrong, but didn't know what to do. I looked at my daughter and realized my silence was teaching her something. So I smiled gently at Naomi and said, "Eat your food, sweetheart." Then I got up and washed dishes because rage would have made me lose control, and control was the only thing I had left. That night, Ariel didn't apologize. She came into our bedroom, kicked off her heels, and said, "You should loosen up. You act like everything is an attack." I said, "It is an attack." She laughed, short and cold. "You want to be a provider so bad," she said, "but you're just there." Then she turned over and went to sleep like she hadn't just carved my dignity into pieces. I lay awake staring at the ceiling, thinking about how love can turn into a hostage situation when the other person stops respecting your humanity. My chest hurt in a way that felt physical. The next week, I met an attorney in Prince George's County during lunch. I kept it simple. I didn't ask how to ruin Ariel. I asked how to keep my kids stable and my finances clean. The attorney looked through my documents and said, "You've been doing the work most people start too late." I felt a strange relief, like someone finally saw what I carried. I met a CPA, too, early one morning before work, and asked about separating accounts responsibly. It wasn't dramatic. It was a quiet transfer of direct deposit, a new budget, a schedule of bills. It felt like putting sandbags around a house before a storm hits. I still loved my kids fiercely, and I still wanted romance to exist somewhere in the mess. So I made little moments with them. I took Naomi to a bookstore in Columbia and let her pick any book she wanted. She chose one about astronauts and asked if I thought she could go to space. I told her, "You can go anywhere." Evan and I made pancakes on Saturday mornings, and he would clap when I flipped one without dropping it. Those mornings were funny and sweet, and they reminded me that joy didn't belong to Ariel. Joy belonged to us. At night, when Ariel was out, I read bedtime stories with silly voices until Naomi laughed so hard she snorted, the same way her mother once did. Life kept trying to give me softness. I held on to it. Ariel, meanwhile, doubled down. She started talking about moving into a better place in Baltimore County. Bigger, newer, more her. She said her business was expanding, that she needed a new car, that everything was finally aligning. She filed applications using household income as proof, speaking like it was hers by default. I watched it happen without stopping her, because she was stepping onto a floor that was about to disappear. She took Deshawn to events and called it professional. She stopped coming to parent-teacher conferences. She treated home like a hotel. And every time she left, she tossed the kids toward me like luggage and said, "You've got it, babysitter." No remorse, no softness, not even when Naomi asked her to stay. The turning point came quietly, not with a shouting match. Ariel came home one evening glowing, talking about a new contract. She had that performed confidence, like she wanted me to clap. "You'll handle the kids tomorrow, right?" she said. "I have a meeting." I asked calm where. She stared at me like I crossed a line. "Why are you interrogating me?" she snapped. Renee called later and said, "Let my daughter breathe. Your job is to support her." I stared at the wall while Renee spoke, realizing how deep the disrespect ran, how many people had agreed to see me as disposable. That was the moment I stopped hoping Ariel would wake up. I filed the next morning. Separation, temporary custody schedule, financial disclosures, everything backed by receipts, school records, doctor visit confirmations, childcare payments, grocery totals, insurance premiums. I didn't ask the court to punish Ariel emotionally. I asked for stability. I asked for what was real. Ariel was served on a Thursday afternoon. She called me immediately, furious, not heartbroken. "Are you trying to embarrass me?" she hissed. I said no. "I'm trying to protect our kids." She laughed like that was a joke. "You think you can do this without me?" she said. "You are nothing without me." The audacity almost made me laugh, because I had been doing everything with her and still felt alone. Karma hit her the way it hits people who confuse performance with foundation, suddenly and with paperwork. Her new lease required verifiable income in her name. Her numbers didn't hold up without my deposits padding the story. The new car payment bounced twice. The contract she bragged about demanded consistent delivery and dependable funding, and she couldn't keep up. When she tried to lean on Deshawn, he did what passengers do. He disappeared when the ride got expensive. She called me, not crying, just irritated, as if I owed her rescue. "You need to fix this," she said. Not "I'm sorry." Not "I hurt you." Just fix it. I said quietly no. At the custody hearing, Ariel sat there with perfect hair and a face like stone. Renee sat behind her, glaring at me like I was a thief. The judge asked basic questions. Who does drop-offs? Who attends appointments? Who handles routines? Ariel answered like she was offended by the topic. "He does," she said, like it was proof I was a servant. My attorney submitted records, receipts, schedules, confirmations. The judge didn't care about Ariel's image. The judge cared about consistency. When the temporary schedule came back with me as primary for weekdays, Ariel didn't look sad. She looked angry, like the court had insulted her brand. Naomi reached for my hand afterward, squeezing hard. That squeeze felt like a whole speech, and it was private, exactly how I needed it. The private victory wasn't a celebration. It was peace returning in small, realistic ways. The house got quieter. The kids stopped flinching attention. I moved us into a modest place in Laurel, closer to school and my work routes. Nothing flashy, just clean, safe, steady. I got promoted within 6 months. No announcement, no applause, because my performance at work had always been solid, and now I wasn't bleeding energy at home. I started sleeping again. I started cooking again, trying new recipes that made Evan say, "Daddy, this is fancy," when it was just baked chicken with lemon. Naomi and I started a silly tradition, Friday night, bad movie night, where we rated movies on a scale of terrible to still terrible. We laughed so much the neighbors probably thought we were fine, and we were slowly. Ariel never showed remorse. Not once. Even when her business shrank and her friends stopped calling, she blamed me. Even when she had to return the keys to a place she couldn't afford, she called me petty. Even when Deshawn vanished, she acted like she was too good to care. Renee still told anyone who listened that I took everything, as if I hadn't built most of it. I didn't correct them. I didn't post. I didn't argue. I just kept showing up for my kids, kept stacking quiet wins, kept building a life where respect was the minimum requirement. Ariel wanted the world to believe I was just the babysitter. Fine. I became the one who actually provided, quietly, and let her live with the difference. If you enjoyed this story, please like, comment, and share this video with your friends. Subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a powerful story drop.